Hello, I don't know if I'm live here yet. I'm trying again to do this on my phone, and I am a little bit new to doing it on my. Okay, let's turn. I'm trying to get the chat up where I can see the chat. Okay. Hello, Alice. Somebody's live. If you can let me know if you can hear me. I had some sound problems last time, but we'll see if this is any better. Hi, Matthew. Hello. Can you hear me fine? There were some sound problems last time, so if there's a problem, let me know before I roll into this too much. But I thought I would come and do a live walkthrough of the Hush Tarot. Of course, now Isabel's going to start growling about something. And I apologize because I have no... Okay, let me try to get this. I'm going to try to get this slightly higher. That's better. Bored at home. I hear you on that one. Hello, Dylan. Okay. I am going to assume that this is good. So, please excuse as I try to stay a little bit focused with these so that I'm not off. I'm sorry, I'm going to wait for her to stop growling at the person who's very legitimately walking up to their own apartment. So, Isabel, come on, honey. Come on, that's fine people. They're nice people. Come on. Thank you. I feel very protected. Now you just come on over here. I don't know about you people with dogs, but she's hilarious. So yes, I have had this for a while now. The edges are already colored. It's a little bit worn already because I have used it. But I wanted to, I'll be honest with you, my concern was that this was going to be a beautiful but not really usable deck. The art's absolutely gorgeous, so that wasn't the question. I'm pretty sure that it is pre-existing artwork, with some of the artwork perhaps being made for the deck. That's my feeling about it. And of course, decks can be very hit and miss if they are pre-existing artwork. Sometimes it works really well, sometimes it doesn't work so well. And I would say more often than not, it doesn't work very well. So I wanted to actually use this before I did a walkthrough of it. And so that's why I'm here now. I've used this for quite some time. I can just kind of give the pre-review that I'm actually really in love with this deck. I think it's absolutely stunning. I don't think it's a super easy deck in the sense that it isn't going to be a comfortable fit to the Rider-Waite-Smith if that's a way that you read. But you have to, like one of my other favorites, the John Bauer Tarot, you have to be willing to sort of go with the deck. You have to kind of go where the deck is. And where this deck is in the liminal spaces. Now, it is not touted as a Fae deck, but for me, this is a very Fae deck. It really exists in those liminal spaces between, say, our world and the Fae world. And I think it inhabits that space really gorgeously. Now, I want to, because, you know, I don't do anything quickly or easily, I wanted to read really quick a piece from a book called Winter Rose by Patricia McKillop. There are two books in this series. Winter Rose is one, and Solstice Wood is the other. If you took my class with me in November, we went through these quite thoroughly. But as soon as I started working with this deck, it reminded me of the understanding that we really see in Patricia McKillop's book, especially this particular book, in the sense that in these two books, we understand, or the world in which this book inhabits, the Fae is not, or are not, the Fae world is not an easy world. It is not an easy binding to our world. And in fact, they would see us very, very differently. And we, of course, would see them very differently. And that makes for sometimes amazing and beautiful experiences. And sometimes it makes for very dangerous experiences. And so that, and also this deck really leans into the juxtaposition between decay and growth, which is of course a fact of life in our world. As our world exists today, we are in a constant cycle of life and death, and of course in between those two things is growth and decay. And so this deck has holds space in it holds space for that liminal space of growth and also that liminal space of decay. And so I wouldn't say that it's always a comfortable deck, but I have found it to be really powerful. But let me just read this passage real quick. So this, I'm obviously not going to give the book away because I suggest that you read it if you haven't read it already, because it's fantastic. But there is a space, there is the main character, Rose, is, I don't think, giving too much away to say that she is of mixed blood. And so she does have Fae in her and she does have human in her. And she has not existed comfortably in the human world. And she is just starting to see into the Fae world and is not sitting very comfortably in the Fae world as well. But one of the things that fascinated me about this particular book is that there is this point in which we see through Rose, we see through the eyes of the fairy queen, and through Corbett, who is more Fae than human for sure. And so I'm just going to read this passage because I really feel like this particular deck exists in the space that this describes the Fae as seeing the human world. So in chapter 13, it starts with, I saw the world out of Corbett's eyes. Our solid walls crumbled, showed stone under broken plaster, and night where stone had fallen. Winds, dark and faceless, flew restlessly in and out of the holes in the roof between the sagging rafters. Beta and my father were shadowy figures, bulky, indistinct, their voices blurred, their gestures ragged and abrupt like the gestures of scarecrows. The fire fluttered frantically in the darkness, giving little warmth and less light, even when the shadow with the burning pipe rose with a laugh that seemed to ripple across the air, echoing itself, and heaved. Oops, now I lost my place. I am so sorry. That is the worst thing to do ever. Okay, I'm trying to hold I'm going to move over here. Sorry, folks. The fire fluttered frantically in the darkness, giving little warmth and less light, even when the shadow with the burning pipe rose with a laugh that seemed to ripple across the air, echoing itself, and heaved a log into the flames. Only Laurel seemed unchanged, a glowing figure. Light caught at her and clung, framed her tranquil movements. Her voice came clearly through the errant winds, the constant flow of dry, invisible leaves rushing across flagstones, down all our crooked, meandering passageways. I didn't see myself out of his eyes, but I saw his face, pale as moonlight, as if the sun had never touched it. Expressions shaped it with every touch of the wind. Generations looked out of his eyes. Now he wore his grandfather's dangerous smile, now his father's helpless fury. Now his own terror touched his eyes, or his desperate need for the one clear, bright figure in this world. And then he would look at me, and his face would change again, beautiful and merciless, luring me and warning me away. And then it goes on. I'm not going to bore you to tears because I suggest you read the book. But it goes on to just describe the way time moved so quickly in our world compared to their world that it is as if they could just see that constant state of decay, and that there were these certain people, probably people that were very pure of heart and or people with Fae blood in them that would shine so brightly that the Fae would be attracted to them, sometimes to their benefit, sometimes to their detriment. So I just think, yes, the book is very intriguing, and I highly recommend it, as well as its sequel, which is A Solstice Wood. But this deck, I feel like, just perfectly embodies the way that Patricia McKillip talks about the Fae world and the way in which those worlds interact. So this is how I would see this. Let me pause here for a moment and catch up. I would say just not speak to the people who are, if there's a real need for moderation, just give me a shout. Being bored by my rambling is not a crime. In fact, it probably goes with a lot of people who watch my videos. So we'll just keep rolling anyways. So yeah, I think that best describes this deck. But let's get on to the real walkthrough, because I actually think this is a wonderful deck. So excuse me while I navigate having this phone kind of in my way. So we're talking about the Hush Tarot by US Game System. The back of it reads, Hush Tarot beckons readers to explore an alluring world where animal and human spirits are unified, and even the smallest creatures like ravens and hares have great significance. At times they appear lost in the weeds, but there is always a hidden clue guiding them to the way out. The fascinating characters and landscapes are illustrated with lush detail inspired by a 19th century aesthetic that explores natural forms in various states of life and decay. Hush Tarot offers a shift in perspectives that reveals profound answers to life's mysteries. So that's how it describes it. And truthfully, I think that's a really great description of this particular deck. I think that this tells you what you should expect, other than the fact that, again, it does not list this. It does not list this as a Fae deck, even though, again, I would say, to me, this very much speaks to Fae energy. If you have the deck, I think it's right behind me. Let me see if I can get it without, like, pulling a cord. There's an Oracle deck that this reminds me of, which is the Magic of You Oracle. This is, again, not touted as being Fae, but it very much, for me, holds space for Fae energy, for very liminal space that is going to sometimes be uncomfortable. This is a deck that is more on that sort of nature side of things, in which death is part of life. And so there will be aspects of death and decay, as well as beauty and growth in the deck. Let me see. I don't know how, to be honest, to... Okay, I think I took care of that. Again, I don't care if somebody tells me I'm boring, because I'm boring to a lot of people, but let's not go crazy here. All right, let me make a loud noise. Hello, everybody coming in. I am going to do a live walkthrough because I feel like chit-chatting and talking about a deck. And so I decided to do it live because we had fun the last time. And so that is that's what I'm here for. So if you are interested in a long ramble about this deck, come on board. If that does sound tedious, I would say this is not the walkthrough for you. I'm sure there are other flip throughs of this deck. Okay, quick drink there. So the box, I mean, it's US Games. I actually really like US Games. I like their cardstock. I like their boxes. It's a nice box. I love this turquoise in the middle. I mean, it's a good box. Like, I don't know what else to tell you about that. It's a good box. And I know this is a close perspective, so it's kind of hard to get any great far away from it. It's just the nature of this particular camera setup. It's my phone. You can see I have edged this already in a matte gold. I have well used this deck, and it's already showing that. I am a riffle shuffler, and that's okay with me. I'm all right with my decks looking like they're well used. This is the back of the deck. It is reversible. It's not my absolute favorite. I mean, it's beautiful. I do love the skulls that are here. It feels a little mechanical for the rest of the deck because the rest of the deck is so earthy based, and this doesn't feel particularly earthy based. It kind of feels like steampunky, which I guess you could kind of go there with this, but I don't really see. I don't really kind of see this as going so much with the deck, but it does not clash it, and it's not horrible. Like, I've seen far worse backs of the deck, but it's not my favorite. I also am not a big fan of titles on the backs of decks, but that's just a pet peeve. Okay, so let's take a look. Yeah, I'm the same way, Simon. That's just never something I'm a fan of. It has a little book. It is definitely a little white book. There was something I'm sorry, I'm going to pull this into where I can see it real quick, just so that I can. Okay. Let me just read this little piece by the artist here. Much of my life has been spent on the move. While my surroundings have changed, I have always maintained a special kinship with animals, and I've carried an unbroken connection with the pen in my hand. My art is my world, and my world depicts nature as being bigger than any individual person, where the smallest creature looks down on us. It's a place that feels like home, but still has an element of danger, adventure, and mystery. The element of mystery has drawn me to tarot with its unknown origins and its depth of symbolism and hidden meanings. Yet the cards can still speak in absolutely anyone in a very personal way. And I think that is really a good way to. He does, I think, use the terms. There's always hidden clues. He talks about how there's meaning in the very direction that they walk. So you want to pay attention to smaller things. It weaves the lives of animals and humans, and again, I would say Fae, together on common ground and equal footing. The animal and human spirit are unified. The idea of spirit animals figures significantly in this deck. So that's, of course, another reason why I would particularly love this. It's liminal space. It looks at both life, death, growth, and decay. As the world exists, we live in that cycle. We don't want to look at decay, and we get uncomfortable looking at decay, but it is part of the natural world, and this deck does do that, and of course, a beautiful way. And then, of course, it really leans into animal energy, which is also another thing that I enjoy. There are animals in this deck that either are or look to be dead. And so if that is something that is too uncomfortable for you, again, this may not be the video for you. The book itself, I'm so sorry about Isabel. She really is being wretched tonight. Um, there's no images in the book. It gives you an upright and a reverse meaning for each of the cards. It's a little bit smaller in the minors than the majors. We'll read a couple of them to show. There is a couple readings in the back. We have actually just the one reading. Self-binding influence. So kind of, I'm not sure. We'll try that at the end and see what we think about it. I haven't used that. I've just used it in my normal 3-card pulls pretty much, mostly. But I have found that I've enjoyed the guidebook, even though it's very small. It does generally acknowledge what the animal focus is. For example, let's just start with the Fool, just so you can get a feel for the major arcana, what it gives you in the guidebook. So there's the Fool card, which is a ferret. So let's go ahead and read this. And I know I'm reading a lot in this particular walkthrough, but, what can I say? Major arcana is 0, the Fool. Upright is mischievous, bold, out of step, and adventurous spirit, carefree and open to new experiences. The ferret is known for its curiosity and playful temperament, which can sometimes be considered mischievous. Moths use their turbulent fight to invade predators. Their erratic moves can help to avoid danger. Also, as masters of disguise, they are a reminder to be aware that you could be hiding from yourself. Reversed, it means poor decision making, carelessness, being open to risks. The ferret has excellent night sight, but he is easily distracted. A glance over the shoulder leaves you blind to obstacles ahead. Just as the moth may be proficient in its own manner of flight, the object it most desires is often just a flame, its end. Be mindful in your decision making. Sometimes actions have lasting effects. So you can see a couple good things here. This is a deck that, as I said, is not a one-to-one comparison to Rider-Waite-Smith. I don't believe that that was the intention of the deck. If it was, it didn't quite work out that way. And so when that is the case, I enjoy that. But then make sure that the guidebook, at least doesn't give us random Rider-Waite-Smith meanings when it's not a Rider-Waite-Smith deck. And that sometimes happens. You'll just get this guidebook that just has these quick little brief basic traditional meanings, but the deck isn't basic or traditional. And so I do like that they are going into detail about the two animals found in here and how this allows us to interpret the card. And so that to me is a big plus for the guidebook. So I also love, as Miss Molly said here, that I love that it's a full, it's technically a borderless image. However, it does have these thin borders on it, and I quite enjoy that aesthetic. It doesn't interrupt the flow of the cards. It has the title or the number on the top, and it has the title on the bottom. They're unobtrusive. It fits into the aesthetic of the card really beautiful. And so I quite like that. I think that's a great way for people making decks to have borders, so to speak, and have titles, but have it not really break up the feel of the deck. I feel like, okay, I see something differently in my iPad than I see on my phone, which is really unfortunate. Okay, I'm going to actually lean in a little bit and look on my iPad, and then I'm going to have somebody confirm to me that once I'm done. So look away if you get car sick. Whoops, okay. Look away if you get car sick. Because again, I see something totally different on my phone, which is so strange. Okay, I think I can pull it down a little bit. Once we get it set, we'll be good. Can somebody confirm whether that you can see the whole thing? Because I can't in my phone, but I can on my iPad where it's playing back. Okay, thank you, Simon. Thank you, Simon. I don't know. That's pretty bad that it doesn't let you see on your phone exactly what you see. That's unfortunate, to be honest. But okay, we're set. Taking a drink. I don't have a cold, but I feel like I'm just a little raspy. So I apologize for that. Okay, so let's take a look at these cards. I have babbled enough about how much 23 minutes in, and we're just looking at the Fool. Okay, that's the way it goes, right? That's the way we roll here on the Truth and Story. Okay, let me get the guidebook. The bottom is a bit close. Okay, I'm going to nudge it up. Woo, woo. Of course, it's going to shift a little bit as we go, so I'm going to call it good. All right, so let's keep going. So we read about the ferret. I quite like this energy for the ferret. My sister's old ex boyfriend had ferrets, and they were a blast. They were definitely mischievous. They were definitely often up to no good, but they were also so inquisitive and so very curious that I actually think that a ferret goes really well here. So that I think works quite well. This was the one that I saw and I was a little bit unsure of. I was kind of like, okay, this is an interesting magician. So I do want to read, again, folks, I'm not attempting or trying to be quick with this. So just forewarning. The magician I thought was an interesting card because we have this wolf spirit, or so to speak, up above. We have a wolf that has obviously been shot by arrows, that's here. We have this magician, the woman here, who seems to be putting him back together and or taking him apart. We're not entirely sure. So let's read the guidebook for this. The magician is the tie between the spirit and the physical world. This card represents the balance between the wild of the inner animal and the calm of the aligned mind. The wolf has long been linked with humanity. While early hunter-gatherers were equipped with hands to wield tools, the wolf was armed with enhanced senses, eyes that see in the dark, smell, speed, and agility. Together, our skills advanced each other. The magician has the fortitude to bridge that relationship, rediscover those forgotten powers, balance the primitive and the sophisticated, hold it tightly, manifest the power to help, not to hinder. And then the reverse side, I'm not going to read the whole reverse side, but the reverse side talks about the reverse side of the wolf. I mean, the wolf has been, since I was very young, an animal spirit that I work very closely with. But the wolf is not just an animal spirit full of love and light and coming to give us blessings, right? I think that in our esoteric, shall I say, spiritual community, I'm not sure what to call it, that we're often really looking just at the sort of light side of things. Wolves are hunters, they are devourers, right? They are carnivores. They are powerful forces that are very, in nature, are neutral, right? They're not traipsing about the forest looking for Little Red Riding Hood to guide her to her grandmother's. They're probably more likely to try to eat her, as we see, right? In some of the fairy tales, right? So I think that this is not a deck that leans just into the fluff, but also leans into the power and the natural predatory nature of some of the animals. So it goes into that about how packs work, what happens when we fall into being solitary, and about hunger and devouring and things of those natures. So it really leans into both. But the woman here, this magician, she stands at the threshold between really all three. We have the natural spirit here. We have the physical body, which is of no longer of use. And we have this kind of coming to terms with this and this learning from all aspects of the wolf. So again, uncomfortable energy, but very cool. And also, while you may or may not, go with that, you may read that and say, okay, that means nothing to me. I still think that at least the guidebook is referencing what we are seeing for the most part and giving us a place to navigate to if the image and the title itself isn't enough to navigate us. So I appreciate a little white book that has a very short space, and it devotes that space to honing us in on what they were thinking. So I appreciate that. So yeah, this was one that intrigued me, and I was like, what would you even do with that? I think there's a lot to work with there in the light and the shadow of power, right? If you think even just about Little Red Riding Hood, it's a story of power. In some versions, it's the wolf power. In some versions, it's Little Red Riding Hood's power as she cuts open the wolf and frees her grandmother. There are power degrees to the story of Little Riding Riding Hood. And so I think that in this particular image, and she's wearing a red dress. So I really leaned into sort of that real, that more visceral story of Little Red Riding Hood, not like the, again, fairy tales were written for adults. They were later on turned into children's things. But just as in the Little Pigs, the three little pigs caught the wolf and roasted him in a pot and ate him in the real story. So the fairy tales that we see as children are watered down versions of original stories. And so this really taps to me into sort of an adult understanding of Little Red Riding Hood and the power struggle that is inherent in that story. And of course, the magician is about power. So yeah, I think that's pretty awesome. I do think it works beautifully. So here we have the High Priestess. This one, again, I am going to read a lot from the book because I've been myself reading a lot from the book to kind of see, is this deliberate, or are, again, these beautiful images that they just slapped on here because they had a lot of absolutely stunning images. And I will say that the artist, whose name is Jeremy Hush, is incredible. But I feel like it was a very smartly done. May not be for everybody, but it is a very smartly put together deck. And it talks about the High Priestess sitting between the shadow of light and death, or light and dark, I'm sorry, her eyes and ears attuned to what's hidden beneath the surface. We have the bird that's right here, and then we also have the bird in hand. It's an interesting take on the High Priestess. At first I thought, this isn't really going to be my favorite. I would like to know I need to take a picture of this and zoom in because I would like to know what this says right here. I'm skimming real quick, but I don't think it tells us that in the book. No, not that I can tell. But I quite she looks like she is like a Victorian woman who is off in her, has the money and the wherewithal to do as she wish and dive deep into the waters of knowledge. And that's what the High Priestess is. Here we have the Empress. Now, when I first got this deck, I thought that the Empress would have been better as the High Priestess, right? I almost saw this card as being High Priestess feeling to me. Now, that's because the Raven's, again, one of my animal energies, and I kind of associate that with sort of messages across the liminal space and to the other world, which seems very High Priestess. But I do actually quite love. You see what another reoccurring theme show up pretty quickly here. You can see that the human here, the human figure itself, is a bit of a construct, right? We can see a joint here. We can kind of see seams that are here. And so we have this idea of construction as life and creativity and choices that we make, all of these types of things as being constructs. Society is a construct, a spiritual, like religion, I wouldn't say spirituality, but religion is a construct. And all of these things are things that we carefully construct our world. And we see this theme like that. We see that, I think, play itself out in this deck. For some reason, I was able to see the comments on right on my screen, but oh, there they come. They're coming back. Okay, I just got to pay more attention. When I talk, I'm used to looking up at the camera, and so I'm not always looking down. Sorry. Anyway, so you see that reoccurring theme. So again, with the guidebook, it does talk about, I'm not going to read it. I'm not going to read them all. I keep telling myself. But she does talk about how it hints at the lessons of the birds and the bees. We do have birds. We do have bees. We do have rust. We have decay that complete one cycle and another cycle starts up. And so it really, the Empress, who is, in this deck, represented as Mother Earth, is both of those things. She functions in death and decay, and she functions in creativity and life. She is very much that Persephone, or that balance between those two worlds that is lives part of the time in one and part in time of the other. And so I think that is really beautifully depicted here. So, so yeah. And also the way that identity is very constructed and man-made, right? And sometimes we have to deconstruct and reconstruct after life and other people have put certain things on to us, or experiences have changed us, and we sometimes have to deconstruct and reconstruct ourselves. And I think that this deck leans into that energy. So, yeah, I definitely think, Miss Kaleidoscope, this is probably not a deck that isn't for everybody. I would 100% say that it's probably not. I guess there's no deck that's for everybody, but this deck, I think, is uncomfortable enough that it's not going to be for for everybody, and that's okay, right? We can still appreciate the beauty and say it's not one I have to have in my collection for sure. This is the Emperor. I quite love this because we're seeing this construction right here. It's almost like there is, but it's going through the cost, right? The price of the construction. It's like almost has that Christ feel. The payment for the building up of society, the building up of what he wants to construct. There is a price to that, which I think is quite a powerful representation with the pillar going through his hand here. But I like that we're actually seeing hands in the process of building, which is, of course, what we think of with the Emperor. And I also like that we haven't yet seen, it's been more natural and a little bit, well, we get some of that here. But there is more of a shaped, geometric shapes, which again would go very well with the Goodnight Miss Kaleidoscope, would go quite well with the Emperor card. Here we have the Hierophant. Now, here's where you can see that there are touches on the actual tarot. Like we have the keys that are crossed here. So again, I don't know if anybody knows this, and that I don't know. My feeling is that the majority of these cards were probably pre-existing art, but there are some cards that are clearly reference the cards that they are in, and so I believe that there are some of the cards that were probably made specifically for the deck, and some of them are pre-existing art. That I have not found anything I haven't found anything that specifically states that, but that's my presumption there. So this one, we can actually see the two keys that are crossed here. And I do like that we see more than one. We see a bird that really seems like it's coming down, and it's almost like that bird is going to open its mouth, right? And so seems to be a bird that's going to feed this bird, which is kind of what the Hierophant represents, that idea of mentoring, passing on to the next generation. But we have the breaking down and the deconstructing of the part of the Hierophant that is in shadow, for me anyways, which is like religious institutions are crumbling, but the passing on to generation is still taking place with the birds, which I think is really gorgeous. I quite love this, actually really love this representation of the Hierophant. So there's that. I know I'm going to try to not spend forever. Now, this is a beautiful image. I don't personally think that it fits the rest of the deck all that well. Again, I think it's beautiful. I think it works really well. We do have a sense of human beings in complete union with their surroundings, which I think works really well, again, for the lovers. so it's not that it doesn't work as a lovers. I think it works beautifully as a lovers card. It just feels a little out of place to the rest of the deck for me. There's one or two cards like that. It's nothing that breaks the deck whatsoever. And again, I think that it works well because it does show things that are in harmony. We've made a choice that is in complete alignment with ourselves and with nature and with the world in general. And so it works. I think that it works in that way, just visually and with the people just kind of being kind of normal for God and Goddess, I guess. It just feels a little bit out of place of the rest of the deck, but it is beautiful. Next we have the Chariot. I love this card. Now, my birth card is the Chariot, and I don't often love Chariot cards. I don't hate them, but they're usually one of my least favorite cards in the deck. They're usually, I don't know, they don't feel very movement oriented sometimes, and I just never usually my favorite. I love this. We have, you know, there's so much confidence and this power to move energy the way that you need to move it, that the horse has come off of the carousel and is just riding naturally, you know, kind of, I can just picture this digging down into the earth and then coming up and digging down into the earth and coming up. I don't know, I absolutely love this card. It has a very magical feel to it, a very fairy tale feel to it, but also quite powerful. And we still see that sense of things are broken. Nothing is in perfect order here. And yet her will and her determination is moving moving this along. So I quite like the same. Yes, I agree, Miss Molly. Same thing with the Wheel of Fortune, and sometimes even the World card. I think this is a stunning strength card. And I'm going to sing it like I'm 5 years old. I just think this is beautiful. There is a deck called the Japardia Tarot, and that deck has claimed, really made me lean into bat energy and the power of bat energy, because the sword suit of the Japardia Tarot is all bats, because it's the only mammal that can actually fly, which I think is really beautiful. And so I quite appreciate that the strength card here is a bat. I'm going to see if they say anything specific. I'm trying not to look too much at the thing, or we'll never get too far. But yeah, again, the deck does a really good job of talking about swarms of bats, turbulent flutter of moths, predator and prey, being held tethered by an inner calm. So we have this, the moths are prey for the bats, right? And so these two things would naturally be attacking each other, but her strength and her calmness and her sense of inner peace is kind of holding everything together, which in a sense of calmness, which I think is gorgeous. I also like the connotations of the broken bindings here. She may have one time been a puppet, because there has a puppety feel here, and yet all of those cords are kind of broken and hanging down. And so that also works really well with the strength card. So, yeah, I definitely agree, Miss Molly. And I completely understand that this is going to be a definite no for some people, but it's a definite yes for me. I love this Hermit card, and I'm going to sing this song again. No, I'm not going to sing through every song that I love, or every card that I love, but this is an amazing Hermit card. Like I believe he has brought up he has caught a snake. People, animals kill animals for food, right? There are herbivores and there are carnivores. And this, in owls are predators. They are carnivores. And so while it is amazing to work with animal energy, we have have to, I think in order to really lean into the power of animal energy, we do have to be open to all of the areas in which they are able to um, give us lessons and give us insight, not just on, oh, they're beautiful owls of wisdom. They're also cunning predators. They have keen eyesight. And so I think that one of the things that this deck does really well is lean into, if we want to work with these animals that show up in a very maybe I would argue a more well-rounded way. But I love the gear work. I love that he's caught his prey already and he's brung it back up. And he is now kind of retreated. He has what he needs and he's brought that up, and he is in that retreat mode that we think of the hermit while he consumes. I mean, come on, folks. It is the hermit. He's going to consume, and he is going to gain wisdom and strength from what he has done. And it's just very literal here. I do love the gear work too. It's just pretty cool. Okay. Here we have the wheel. I really like this card as well. Again, the wheel's probably one of those that isn't always my favorite. They do sometimes feel like, oh, this is the easy card. I'm just going to slap XYZ on it, and there's not a lot of thought that goes into them. I like that this represents a natural wheel of kind of coming on a whirlpool, but it also really highlights the fact that even though the Wheel of Fortune is not a negative card, it does tend to, as an overall way of looking at it, speak to positive change. I would say a modern take on it, but change is difficult. Even when we're going to grow from it, it's very, it's just very difficult to be in the midst of this. And are we going to break free? How are we going to break free? What's going to happen in the end? But in the middle of spinning like this, we're not always feeling very comfortable. And I think that this represents it well. And I believe, let me just turn the page here. Yeah, and see, again, they really lean into talking about ants being hard workers and trying to keep their eye on the goals. And that's very difficult when you're just getting spinned around on a leaf, right? So the guidebook tends to tap into the animal energy, but then how does that animal energy represent when itself is being thrown out of whack? That ant is going to have a hard time orienting itself, as ants normally do, when it gets off of this leaf, right? When it gets to where it needs to get to. So I just think I truly believe this is quite well done. I don't believe this was slapped together haphazardly. I also do like that there are a lot of insects that are involved here. The animal world, they're not just beautiful animals, but sometimes there are not sometimes, there are, thousands upon thousands of species of insects that we can also gain insight from and learn from. So I quite like that. Here we have the Justice card. She has sort of a weapon in hand, and she has a arrow in hand as well. We have the bees here, and we have the ants here. And let's just read this really quickly. You are aware that your decisions and actions have led you to the present state. Through lessons of the past to lessons in the near future, your every step is guided by choice. Both good and bad have weighed in on your journey. Armed with confidence and strength, Justice walks tall on her search for truth. The arrow points the way forward. The pole arm cuts the trail through the brush. The stings and bites are hardships along the way of seeing the truth in others. Learning of your own inner truth makes it easier to see the truth in others and to judge objectively. So I like what they've done here. They've almost blended some of the energy of the Judgment card with the Justice card. It's as if Justice is taking place after that moment of judgment. We first cast judgment and see clearly on ourselves, and that's what allows us to go out and start to see truth in others and in other situations. And it is a very fierce, strong Justice energy, which I love. I love this. Poor Simon. It's probably very late, I think. We'll see if Simon makes it. I think, did somebody say, I'm sorry because I missed it, but I think Simon let this deck go maybe. But I appreciate him hanging out with us anyways. Um, so anyways, I love this hanged man. Or woman, I guess it's gender neutral, but we see ourselves in cards, so I see a female here. Um, I love that this is after the perspective, right? She's already been hung upside down. She's already gained the perspective that she needs. Yes, and they're wearing a mask, but they they're just they're untying themselves, and they're going to go forward now. So it's like that step after this. She's already gotten the perspective, and now what is she going to do with it? So when this card comes up, it's not just get some perspective, but get some perspective and take action on it. So I quite love that. And yes, it's definitely a mask on her. Well, yeah, you can tell by the eyes that it's definitely a mask on her face. Oh, this is one of the reasons I purchased the deck, was from this death card. This is an amazing death card. I think it's absolutely stunning. It does represent life and death, as most modern death cards do, but it's certainly very powerful. We have this amazing, let's see exactly what animal this is. And this is what sorry folks, I do love this deck. I've used this for a while, so I'm quite psyched about it. It tells you exactly what the animal is. This is a batlore, I don't know how to say that, batlore eagle. It says is a powerful creature who can soar to lofty heights other birds merely dream of. This card is a reminder to look closely into the lessons of life for the most minute of details in order to see life from a broader perspective. It talks about change and rebirth as being things that give us perspective, which I think is really powerful. We have the eggs here, which tell us new life is coming. We have the skull here that represents death. And we have the clarity and the perspective that gains when we lean into both of those energies. So absolutely gorgeous death card. Here we have Temperance. I think she is quite beautiful. I love that the mask is here, even though I haven't quite reconciled this. Let's look at this. You have a clear vision of what your goals are. You're able to see through the eyes of others. So that's what the mask represents. Patience and understandings have led to a closer understanding of the world. So this Temperance has of course, again, the mask is disconcerting to some people because it's an actual animal head, but she is willing to put herself through, to look through the eyes of others so that she can be in balance, because we can't be in balance and harmony with the world if we're only seeing through our own eyes. And so for us to have true balance in the world and true harmony, we've got to be willing to see the world through the eyes of others. I think that's really awesome. Sorry, folks. I can't help it if I love the deck. Okay. Here we have the Devil's card, which is, again, there's a lot of masks in this deck, if you haven't already noticed. Sometimes for the benefit of others, and sometimes not so much. Excuse me while I pause to take a drink. Look at the little kittens, and they're wearing the devil's mask. I mean, come on. That's so cute. But again, it leans into the cat energy, that cats have a side that is kind and loving, but we also have the side that draws blood. Now, I've had many cats in my life, and trust me, they have claws, and they use them, and they're adorable 1 second, and the next minute that you have blood on they bit you, or they have scratched you in some way, and you are all of a sudden randomly bleeding right 1 second later, after they're absolutely the most adorable things on the planet. And so it leans into that energy there. It also talks about ants here being workers that are that toil, and all kinds of things. So again, I quite love that the guidebook leads into, and it says that the devil is an inner force within each of us, representing our fears and harmful impulses. So yeah, I think that's just really cute and awesome. Okay. The Tower card, this is not a favorite card of mine. I feel like this was a little bit, like it doesn't feel to the same level of artwork, I think, as the rest. But what I do like is that it has, and there's a couple other decks that do this that I quite like, which is where we have that tower that has crumbled, but there's already new life starting to come back in and make use of it. Because that's what we're supposed to be doing, right? We're supposed to take the moments of the tower and then be able to rebuild from there and repurpose what has fallen. And so I quite like decks that have tower cards that already shows that coming into being. So there we have. Beautiful. Again, this is a really interesting star card. It has a banner that says, "A hunting we will go." We have somebody that looks like they are a crusader. And we could argue, I mean, again, this is not a, I'm not going to go into history, a lesson or anything like that, but we could really argue that the Crusaders had a good intention. That's even hard for me to say, but we'll say that the Crusaders had a good intention in mind, that seriously lost their way, right? That they completely lost the way of what they should have been attempting, or what there was in their hearts to attempt. And so I love this sense of that sort of going by the way and in decay, and sort of this freshness of the sparrow, of the bird that is now going to kind of take flight and find the right direction forward. So I quite like that. Good night, Mr. Simon. Thank you for staying up with us. It's like 1 in the morning there. I appreciate the little bit of time, not a little bit, because we've been talking a while. But, anyways, there we go. I quite love this star card because of that. Look, Miss Molly, I'm sorry, Miss Molly and I are going to have a moment. Can we just have a moment with this moon card? Please, folks, look at this moon card. I think it is absolutely gorgeous. And let's just do this and say, look at the sun card along with it. Obviously, if you know me at all, this is a deck for me. I love the eyes here, even though I am not, always a big fan of random eyeballs in places. But hello, Angela's been watching the whole time too. I know lots of you have. But I love that we're seeing through the eyes of the sun, but we're also seeing through the eyes of the moon. I mean, these two, probably my favorite ever sun and moon cards. No naked babies with 6-packs, just, just perfection. They are messengers with the ravens. They're crossing the boundaries. They're the message keepers. They're crossing back and forth from Fae to the real world. I mean, there's so many ways in which this is perfection, sun and moon for me. Now, I've probably got the centering all out of whack. Sorry, folks. I'll have to wait for my iPad to catch up before I can to reorient it. Here we have the Judgment card, and so we have two interesting cards here. I'm gonna move this out of the way a minute so I can lay these down. We have two interesting. Let's flip them. Sorry, this is just organic. Here we have the Judgment card and the World card, and there was a piece of me that would say, okay, this is pre-existing artwork that was kind of stuck in here to, just to be used. But I've actually come to really like these cards. But let's just pause for a minute and take a look at the book, because again, I think the book does a good job in orienting us. What were they thinking when they went here? And so if we think about looking at the archway here, because there's a lot of, the two archways here are very different. You have the decay and the breaking down of, because this judgment card is at the end, right? We've gone through all the work, we've seen all the hardship, things have fallen apart, we've learned our lessons, there's good, there's bad, there's ugly, and the judgment card is about pausing before we walk through the archway. It's a pause to see where we've come from. So you have the past leading up to this point represented here. And then in the world card, we have all of the greenness, all of the lushness. There's no decay here. Everything's in harmony. The animal world, the human world, the constructed world, everything is in balance and is in harmony. So I actually really like, when I first flipped through these two cards, I was kind of like, that was a little bit of an artistic cop-out, just like using some images. I quite like this. She's also looking to the past where she is looking to the future, which I think is really also visually impactful for these two cards, because the judgment card is about looking to the past, assessing how we got there, and the world card, we're now going to go move forward into the next world. So I actually think, again, I was wrong in my initial feelings there, and I quite love these cards now. Okay, so that was the major arcana, and I know we are an hour in, and again, it's live, so they're always going to take a little bit more, and mine always take an hour, but we've literally only gone through the major arcana. Whoops. I said I wasn't going to care how long this took, but, I took that a little bit literally. I'll try to speed it up here. Okay, I'm going to give this a minute to reorient itself, and we'll go a little bit quicker through this. I think you should at least, at this point, I feel like, at least if you've learned one thing from the first hour, it's that I do believe that there is pre-existing artwork here, and some of the art is made for the deck. But I think it was very mindfully chosen, really smartly chosen. I don't know if that's necessarily a word. And I do believe that the guidebook gives you enough to hone into where the book was thinking. I really relate this deck a lot to the John Bauer Tarot. You have to be willing to sort of traipse into the liminal space. You have to go where the deck is. And in John Bauer Tarot, that is into the woods, into this kind of fairy tale nature of the woods. This is going into that space between worlds in the woods. And you really do have to be willing to go there. And if you're willing to go there, I think it reads absolutely beautiful. So, yeah. That's kind of my synopsis of the whole deck. And I think that the major arcana really shows that. So this little bird is singing its song as the new day begins. He's perched within the remains of the past. The crown is the gift of what is to come next. So I quite love that there. He's a cute little sparrow or some sort. I don't know if this, no, it doesn't say if it's a sparrow. But I quite love this. Look at how beautiful this is. There's so much here. I love the two, of course, this is the Two of Cups. This is actually, these are harpies. And so it says here, the harpy are spirits of the wind who are passionate in their endeavors. This card presents symbols of world harmony. The songs of joy and sorrow come together as a powerful force that can sink ships. Yes, please. Again, energy coming together isn't always pretty. We have light and we have dark. We have joy, we have sorrow. I just think that this is really cool to use harpies this way. But that's me. Here we have the Three of Cups. This is an interesting take on the Three of Cups, which is generally, does dark hair woman look like Michelle Pfeiffer? Not too much to me. I mean, she's beautiful, as is Michelle Pfeiffer, but I don't see it too much. but somebody else might. Um, Everybody's saying yes, so ignore me. I don't see it particularly, but doesn't mean anything. This is the Three of Cups. About usually is kind of coming together. I love the hair here. The goat. They talk about the goat here as being staying sure-footed, but the hair speaking of a leap of faith. So again, the cards are. The deck or the little guidebook gives a really good lean into where you could go with this, that I quite love. I also am happy. I know, just having fun with my goat and my hair friends. Why not, Miss Molly? We all have goat friends. Sorry, pause for story time. My dad one time when I was, I don't know, a young teen, I think, brought home two goats. We called, one was Isabel and, is it Abigail and Isabel? No, Isabel's my dog. It's something like that. I'm gonna have to ask my mom now. Anyways, those goats ate everything. We loved them to death, but they sure did. I mean, it was true, how much they eat. Here we have the Four of Cups. Of course, the Four of Cups in tarot is in Rider-Waite-Smith, I should say, not in tarot, is often about apathy and things of that nature. And so you can, I think, go there if that's how you see the Four of Cups. I see the Four of Cups as just calm emotions. It's the number 4, which is stable, and it's Cups, which is emotions and intuition, which is calmness and stability in the emotions. I really like the use of clovers here, and that type of thing. So I'm appreciative as someone who doesn't read Rider-Waite-Smith strictly, that it's just kind of a neutral palette, and it's feels very even toned, which a Four of Cups for me would represent. Look at this. How beautiful is this? I just love these cards. So here's the Five of Cups. Now, you all know how I feel about the Three of Swords. The Three of Swords is not the heartbreak card for me. That's the growth of the mind. But the number 5 is disruptive. And of course, the cups are the suit of the emotions and connections. And so that feeling of loss is part of the Five of Cups for me. Again, read your cards however you wish to. But for me, this really catches that feeling of loss and that feeling of grief. We do still have the flowers representing to kind of go ahead, and there is growth to come. There is still life, but it feels like somebody who is grieving. Like I can relate to this woman, and it just, I think it's beautifully done. Here we have the Six of Cups, which is, of course, generally about nostalgia and seeing the world again fresh and clean. And I believe this works, especially if you look at the color palettes, right? These, the tarot cards don't stand in isolation. They follow each other numerologically and connective energy wise. They follow each other. And so having this color palette of loss and then moving to that seeing the world fresh again, to me, those two cards really express those two energies in the way that they move really gorgeously. So again, I think well done. Well done, US Games and Mr. Hush. So yeah, there's that. Here we have the Seven of Cups. Now, the Seven of Cups, they have as being that idea of a dreamer. And she is that idea. I like that we have some interesting things, right? We have the snake here. We have the horse here. We have lots of animals. We have a bird over here. I feel like every time I look at one of these cards, I see more. Like that to me looks like there is a wasp nest or something like that that's going on inside of here. There's a lot of things that are going on. What are you going to focus on? That's exactly what the card means, right? Lean into your dreams, have dreams, but you have to kind of choose what way you're going to focus, and not that they not be illusions, but that they be dreams, is what's important here. And so I think that it's easy to lean into that energy. Look at this card. Oh, I love this card. I mean, tell me that's not Fae. Of course it's Fae. So we either have a giant bird or we have a Fae. That's a Fae. Um, yeah, here we have the Eight of Cups. I mean, she's putting her hat on. That owl's going to pick her up and they are going to go on to an adventure, right? It's off onto this new path that, yes, a lots of birds of prey, but then also a lot of, I'm sorry, I'm looking at Miss Molly's message. Lots of birds of prey, but also lots of sparrows and wrens. I think that it's got a lot of, it's got all the energies. It's got them all. I love this deck so much. Okay. Here we have, this is interesting because it looks to me like more like an Ace of Cups for this particular one. It's not that it doesn't work, but I think that if you were to see this come up, you would probably think, oh, Ace of Cups. But I do think that with the Nine of Cups, there is a sense of accomplishments here, which is what we see with the Nine of Cups. It does sort of have that feeling of accomplishments. You're not quite there, not sure if you want to grab hold of that around the corner there, or around the stem there with that snake. But it does have that sense of things in bloom. The flowers are in full bloom. So it is quite beautiful. I just think that you could mistake this with that. If you didn't look, you would think that that would be an Ace of Cups. Yes, perfect. Oh, look at this one. It's been a while since I've looked at them all in order because they've been all shuffled up and I've been using it. Look at how beautiful. Everything is in perfect balance with the wren. We don't really need to see, families and things like that. Everything's in beautiful balance here. The coloration speaks to the Ten of Cups. The balance of the heron, I believe that's a heron. Yeah, the heron on one foot is really gorgeous. And again, it talks about the heron here. The heron is a bird of great wisdom. He is powerful in flight and purposeful in his stride. Content in their environment, herons take their time in their outlook on life. Every moment is to be enjoyed. So I just think that is well done. Here we go into the courts then. We have, look at that. I mean, look at the wasp right here with the part of the wasp. I don't know, something about that juxtaposition of that bird and that wasp I find to be a little, gives me a little bit of goosebumps, but also is gorgeous. So it talks about how the bluebird is known for its intriguing song and curiosity, standing atop the hornet's nest. Its hexagon shape is a symbol of the heart. It talks about here, but also that's food for the bluebird. I'm pretty sure birds eat wasps, right? So it's gorgeous. Here we have the night, again, we have that home, off movement of the night. We have they're just getting ready to take off. And so I don't know, it's just beautiful. It feels like a night off to save the day. We have the little daisies. Quite love it. Look at this Queen of Cups. Now, Queen of Cups are normally pretty mushy, right? Let's be fair. Not mushy. They're very, and they should be. They're the nurture. If all queens are water and they're also the Queen of Water, it's very watery energy. But this Queen of Cups, she looks pretty powerful. Excuse me. I love the perspective here. She's down I love the sun and the moon here. I love the nest on her head. Her crown is very powerful and spikily, but that spikes are protecting the bird, right? So I feel like for all the Queen of Cups out there in the world, that this really shows a powerful Queen of Cups, which we usually get with the Queen of Swords. And so I think that there is a power to the Queen of Cups as well, and this really taps into that power quite beautifully. And we have the king. Now, I'll be honest that compared to her, the king of Cups looks a little wishy-washy. He's not as, to me, as powerful as the Queen of Cups, but it's about emotional stability. He's ruling with emotions. He does have a feeling like of Gawain, right? Of the Knights of the Round Table, who's going to go off and that's how that truthfully is how I would see the King of Cups. He's leading with his heart, and I can see this as being Gawain, and it works really, really well in that respect. Okay, Ace of Swords. Hello, Ace of Swords. Let's see. This again is one that I think would be confused with a knight. Maybe I have no. Okay, I'm going to make sure I had them in order. I think you would see this and assume that it's a knight, and so that's a little bit problematic for me because I think we should. Again, once you get to know the deck, you're going to know that what it is, but it's talking about raw power for the ace, which I quite love. And it also is talking about this as a unicorn. And so I am a big fan of powerful unicorns. I am not a fan of Rainbow Bright unicorns. And this feels like a powerful unicorn. And it also shows that the power, ace, it represents the full potential of the suit. And the full potential of the suit of the mind is really powerful. So it does exude that. You just have to take a second to orient yourself to the deck. Look at this creepy Two of Swords. I think it's awesome. Um, I love the little cats. There is something about the eyes like this because look, she's grounded, right? She is grounded as in she's not moving, like she's literally eating dirt. So in her, movement forward, there is a definite feeling of falling and like sliding through the earth, and you're like literally eating dirt. So instead of just getting up and just stumbling along, the blank eyes, I know people will find those very creepy, but the blank eyes to me are about she's gone inward. She's stopped from it. She's like, oh crap, I just scraped myself from head to toe and I'm eating dirt, but I'm going to pause here for a minute. I'm going to go inward and reorient before I get up and get going again, which is the way forward. And I love the little observant, clever, very smart, very independent images of cats to go outward. So that's how I read it. I'm sure other people will read it a little bit differently. This is probably the creepiest card in the deck. And for me anyways, I guess everybody has different ideas of what's creepy. This one, of course, the Three of Swords, this does show its Rider-Waite-Smith base in the fact that we have very clearly about loss and grief, and the guidebook certainly leans into loss and grief with this. For me, I do love that it is autumn time. I do love the birds that are here because it's the understanding that we learn from our experiences, both negative and positive, and that there is still growth to be there. That's the best I can do with Rider-Waite-Smith's Three of Swords. Three of Swords is the number of growth, and Swords is the growth of the mind. We don't just learn from heartbreak, we learn from all different experiences, but we do learn powerfully from difficult things. And between the birds and the flowers and the turning leaves and the kind of dismantled doll feel that we have here, I think all of those things are existing there in order to grow from the experience. Love this. Absolutely love this. This is a Four of Swords. She is not dead. She is resting. She is regaining and recharging so that she can go back out into the battle. It's just beautiful. I think it's so interesting because the deck does so beautifully with these kind of cards that are very busy, and they go well with the cards they've chosen, but they seem to have Mr. Hush and whoever has maybe helped with this has done really well at those pause moments of balance. And the cards that are open like this are in some ways, I think, even more powerful and beautiful than some of the really lush, amazing ones as well. So I feel like they've struck a really good balance in that way. We definitely have, again, the the Five of Swords being sort of Rider-Waite. No, actually, stop, see? I was going to say that this looks more like a Seven of Swords, like he's stealing swords. So let's go back. This is the Five of Swords. He's won, but he does look a little bit devious, right? Has what cost has he won in? He does look like he kind of won, perhaps maybe through deceit or shenanigans in some way. The Five is disruptive. The swords, of course, is suited the mind, and so things have maybe you've gotten a little bit off of your path mentally in some way. I love. Let's hold that out. That's a good question, Ginger Faye. Because he does look sneakily, but I mean, that is the meaning of the Five of Swords also, and even in Rider-Waite-Smith. So it does work. I think it would be easy to scan this and maybe think it's the Seven of Swords, like I just did. I love this the Six of Swords, because look at those piranhas. I'm assuming those are piranhas, and she's only in half of a boat. That's a little scary. Um, transition. It's time to leave a bad situation. Yeah, this is definitely a bad situation, and it's time to start rowing and moving your way forward a little bit faster than she looks like she's going. Now look at this. See, for me, I love the Seven of Swords. Like, come on. So this works better for me. Okay, because again, this, it's all about me. No, but of course, I'm evaluating this off of the way that I read. I do think of the Five of Swords as being sort of off your, maybe you aren't thinking in a way that's at your highest good, or in the most ethical way. Perhaps you're going towards end results at any cost, maybe a little bit too much, right? But I love this because the Seven of Swords is one of those cards in the Rider-Waite-Smith that isn't the way that I read the Seven of Swords, because the Seven of Swords, the number 7 is about new growth, and then suits of the mind. And so this to me represents the way I see the Seven of Swords really well. For somebody who does read Rider-Waite-Smith, I still think it really works, because you still have that sense of stealing away things if you really need to go there, right? Here we have the 8. What I really love about this is the simplicity, right? Because she looks like her eyes are closed. The 8 of Swords is about being bound in our own head. It has nothing to do with physical swords that are capturing us or anything like that. It's just in our head. It could be flowers, it could be butterflies, it could be swords, it could be chains. It doesn't matter, because it's in our head that we are tripping ourselves up. And so I do really like that her eyes are closed, and there is that sense of just open your eyes and you can get yourself out of this situation. Your head's in your way, nothing else. This is beautiful. And the 9 of Swords, the number of 9 for me is high energy. It's dynamic, and it can be uncomfortable, and it exaggerates things. And this really represents the exaggerated fears of the Rider-Waite-Smith well. But the 9 of Swords for me represents the exaggerated fears, but also just exaggerated energy that's really difficult to manage in the head. And I am a full-on Libra with crazy brain much of the time, and that need to bring my brain down into manageable size is something that comes up a lot for me. And so the 9 of Swords comes up for me a lot. And so this works, I think, really beautifully. 10 of Swords, this is gorgeous. Come on, folks. If you know me and you know how I feel about the 10 of Swords, and you know me enough to know how much I adore dandelions. This, I think, is a great balance that gives people who read traditional Rider-Waite-Smith an image that reflects it a bit. But it is so perfect. All of these intentions of the dandelion, all of these wishes, all of these intentions, all of this energy coming into fruition. Some of them aren't quite opened up. Some of them are in full bloom. It is the, full energy of the suit of the mind isn't death for me. And so I think this is stunning, absolutely stunning. And it's got dandelions in it, my favorite flower. Don't call it a weed. This is a bit of a creepy page, I'm not going to lie. She's like a different kind of a harpy woman, like a chicken woman. but it's talking again about the harpy as a fierce spirit. She's just like a baby harpy. She's still got some growing to do. Not my favorite. Again, it does kind of have that image of youth. You know, this is definitely a young girl harpy versus the older harpies that we saw before. But, you know, whatever. I can live with it. Can't love every single one. I love the use of plants, as Miss Molly just said. The use of flowers and plants in here are just as strong as insects and animals and humans. Like, it's all there, which is something that I really love. Here we have the night. I love the... oh my gosh, my brain is blanking. What are those called? Those are Venus flytraps. I think that's awesome for a Knight of Swords because he's thinking with his mind. He's situated himself. We can see there's his whatever his mount is over here. It looks like a grasshopper maybe. So he have his mount here, but he's situating himself behind these Venus flytraps that are also going to help to capture anybody who's attacking him. So there's really a sense of strategy about this Knight of Swords that I think works really well. Oh, thank you, Miss Groot. Okay, there we go. Can we just pause? We're just going to sit here for a while, even though this is the longest walkthrough ever. There's my Queen of Swords. She's beautiful. There's Ravens. There's, you know, it's just, you know, Mr. Hush just said, let's make a deck for Kelly. It's going to be a bad year, or not a bad year, but it's going to be a complicated year. Let's make a deck just for Kelly. That's pretty much sums up my feeling about this deck. This is a crow, right? Again, I know there's a difference between ravens and crows. I do. Energetically, they are all there. I have had one-on-one, interactions, so to speak, in terms of in the real world with both. And they definitely have different energies, but I kind of just interchange them. I love this. I know. I don't know. I don't worry too much about it. The book says a crow, but I feel like when you look at, maybe that's more crow and that's more raven. This looks like raven to me. So for me, it's both, and that's even better. We got crows and ravens. Bam, 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 and bam. I love this Queen of Swords. She don't need clothes. If you don't, yeah, the other thing I should have said before, if you don't like nudity, it doesn't feel, it does not feel gratuitous. It's just she doesn't need clothes. Like, why would she need clothes? She's the Queen of Swords. Come on, folks. Love it. And this is interesting. I will say this. I'm not a fan of decks, or I'm not a fan of decks, where there's just like a random not. So if all of the court cards are people or have human figures or fae figures in them, and then there's just one random card that doesn't, like the Forest of Enchantment has all court cards with people or fae in them, but then all of a sudden there's a salmon. Now the salmon worked really well for the king. I think it's the King of Cups in that deck. But it's just kind of jarring to not have all of the artwork be the same. But I do like what they talk about the pheasant, and they do talk about the way that they talk about the King of Swords with the pheasant. I do like, and I appreciate it. I just feel like I like uniformity in some way. But they go in and they talk about it. They say why they decided to go with the pheasant, and it certainly works. I just like the uniformity of them all being the same. Love this Ace of Pentacles. Okay, so that was the swords. You can probably tell I'm really happy with the sword suit. That's a problem child for me in decks because it's my favorite suit, and I'm really happy with that suit of swords. I love this ace. I love the pigeon. I don't know if it's a pigeon or a dove. It's probably a dove. Actually, in this time, it doesn't actually. No, it does. The dove bridges the veil between the physical and the spiritual world. The key is the gift of new opportunities. I love it. Look at how sweet these are. I see, again, there's predators, and there are sparrows and wrens, and I'm a big fan of wrens. I'm a big fan of little brown birds. Wrens are, of course, the you know, birds of the druid. These are adorable. Absolutely cute, which means nothing, right? Of course, this is about balance. But they're balancing on a stick. I don't even care. They're too cute. Is that a grenade? It is a grenade. Let's read this. Life will always be uncertain. That's uncertain, but harmony can be found. The sparrows represent simplicity, but they have perched atop the bones of others who have failed. Pull the pin and see what the future holds. Because we have this adorable sparrows, but they are on this destruction of the failed destruction of war. So are you willing to blow your world up to find out what comes next? I don't even care. Like, this is one of those ones that you're like, okay, I might have to work with that a little bit. And it's such an awesome image that you just don't care. I feel like I'm going to get a lot of bad messages from this video. It's okay, folks. You don't have to love it. Wrens and grenades. Yeah, sorry. Okay, moving on. I do think this is beautiful. Three of Pentacles, collaboration. I love that we have cardinals here. There's just so many, there's so many different birds and different, it's not just always the same one. There are lots of crows and ravens, but I'm happy with that. But there's all kinds of animals in here. I quite love this. I know, a bird lover, insect lover, steampunk lover, I don't know, all kinds of people. I feel like, look, there's another one. I can't be sad about that. You're never going to get me complaining about too many crows, so, or ravens, or whatever they may be. Here we have the Four of Pentacles. It's about gaining wealth. You can see that there are jewels that are in here as well, but I think the wealth is really the berries. And so we have that energy here. And the number 4 for me is the number of stability. So again, I know that the Rider-Waite-Smith sees the Four of Pentacles as being about greediness, but for me, it's about stability. It's about he needs to find this patch because right now, we're in a space and time in which we need to be careful with our resources. It's not a time to be throwing them everywhere. And so I think that this represents that really well. There's not Light of the Subconscious says there's not enough bird diversity. We have seen sparrows, we have seen wrens, we have seen ravens, we have seen crows, we have seen doves, we have seen owls, different types of owls, little owls and big owls. We have seen, I'm flipping through, we've seen eagles, we've seen all kinds of birds. Like, I feel like, how can we have even more birds types than we have here? Oh, they're all over. I'm sorry. I'm not going to argue with the lovely lady. While we look at the creepy lady in the seaweed. Sorry, Soren. Soren's like, can you stop talking about birds while we're looking at the sunken woman here? Here we have the Five of Pentacles. I mean, this is disconnection. This to me looks like it's like the lady on the bow of the ship. And it's that ship has sunk, right? So if we think about the ship and the Three of, and swans, thank you. She's even helping me with my argument. There's swans. Like, there's so many kinds of birds. That's what I see. I know this may not be that, but I see, you think about the Three of Pentacles often has the ship coming in, waiting for our ship to come in. The Five is about disruption of our resources, and this ship has sunk. That's what I see when I see this particular. It's 3:30 a.m. where she is. She's like, I didn't see all the birds, Kelly. Stop yelling at me. I'm gonna give you a pass because it's 3:30 and you're still here. So let's give you a pass and a gold star. So I think this really works well. Here we have the Six Here we have the Six of Pentacles. This is not so much my favorite because I never really like the images in Six of Pentacles of sort of weighing out our resources. Um, but this isn't what this is actually about. You know, when you have to like, I don't really like Six of Pentacles where the rich people are giving money to the poor people, because I think that's not the point of, for me, it's not the point of the Six of Pentacles. The six is about balance and harmony and of resources. And this actually works well for that because he's balancing out his resources. And it even says that in the book that you're in a harmonious place with your finances in both giving and receiving. So this actually works better for me than most Rider-Waite-Smith images. So, yeah, the men are a little creepy here, but let's be honest, the women are pretty creepy too. Like there's quite a lot of creepy women in here. I feel like they're equally all just kind of creepy. There's more women that are not creepy though. I will give you that. Like she's not creepy. Okay, so here we have the Seven of Pentacles. And this is like you've done all the work, you're just taking a break. And it works. It's beautiful. I'm sorry. I'm trying to speed this up. This is really a long, long video. Look at him. He's nice and hard working with all of his heads. Sorry, Soren. Um, but he is, I like the look of him. He reminds me of like a smith or something like that, like the fairy smiths that you see. And he's just collecting his heads. Don't worry about it. No, he's obviously has his hammer and he's Jada's like gonna throw something at me, I feel. Um, no, I mean, this is obviously a stone worker and he is creating an amazing piece of art, which is actually cool. And reining my hilarity back in, I actually think this is a really pretty cool card, because he's a stone maker. You know, they talk about how when you work with stone, like if you're a person who makes, there's a name for that. I'm so sorry. It's not as late as it is at some people's time zone, and my brain's starting to shut down because I've talked so much, clearly. But they talk about how that you have images in the stone and letting those images out, so to speak, which I think is pretty cool. It's not a mason, I don't know. Matthew, help me. Like a sculpturist, somebody who's a sculpturer. There we go. That's what I'm trying to say. Maybe that's what I'm trying to say. Anyway, so I actually really do like this card, and I don't think it's creepy. It's just cool. Okay, so here we have our Nine of Pentacles. Beautiful. What does she have on her hand? Because it's a seabird, a sign of travel and freedom. She has the freedom to try. I quite like that. You usually see a bird of prey. Look at, okay, Miss Light of the Moon. It's not Light of the Moon. I'm going to slaughter your name because I can't remember these things. Here's another bird. Are you still awake? Light of the subconscious. Here's another bird. We got a seagull now. Stonemason. Oh, I like that too, Rocks. I like this because the idea of freedom. She's got the resources and the time to be able to explore the things that she's interested in. In traditional decks, we'll see that with a bird of prey because it was it was cost money and resources and time to be able to be somebody who trained birds. But I think this actually works really well. That idea of freedom. I know I'm not taunting. I'm not taunting her. I love her. I'm just proving to her there's lots of birds. I'm so sorry. Forgive me, Light of Subconscious, because I am just having fun with you. But I probably don't know you. Like I should stick to making fun of Jada because she knows me well enough to not be offended. um, okay, let's rein it in. I'm getting a little drunk on a tarot deck that I love. Here I know, Jada knows me too well. I can pick on her. Um, Here we have the 10. I love this 10 of Pentacles. Again, it's the bridge. There's your bridge, Molly. But it is, I mean, I think the bridge is a perfect representation of the 10 of Pentacles, right? Everything is connected as it should be. Commerce can take place back and forth across the bridge. I quite like the idea of using a bridge as the theme for a Ten of Pentacles. And again, we don't have that sort of, in either the Ten of Cups or the Ten of Pentacles, we don't necessarily have to have other people, like we often see families and generations and things like that. And I do like that in this deck, because I do think it is a very personal inward journey deck. And so I think that having the 10 of Pentacles and the 10 of Cups really still be singular and representing of ourselves is kind of great. I know. I hope you're not offended. I'm just playing with you. Oh, I love her. Now, this to me is a bit powerful for a page. I feel like it would have been fun to have a little, at least like an ear tuft or something. Can we see? Let's look. Is there one hidden? No. No. But we can pretend there's one behind those flowers. I feel like this looks like the queen. So let's take a better look at, I can't remember what the queen looks like. Now see, that to me looks like a page, but I do like it for a knight. Okay, so now we don't have just the fact, we're going to come back to this page, I promise. We don't just have the one king as an animal, so that's better. At least we have multiple animals here. The knight is about, with both hands you have built a sturdy foundation. Oh, the knights actually did hands. The blackbird shares your, there's a blackbird, another bird. We're gonna go back through the whole deck and count the birds just for you. The blackbird shares your nesting nature. All that you have planted and invested is coming into fruition. Clarity of vision holds everything together. I quite like that. I quite like it. Okay, so here we have our, personally, this to me looks like the Queen of Pentacles, right? I love this deck, but it doesn't have to be perfect. And to me, this kind of highlights where I really think this is powerful Queen of Earth kind of energy. But this is, again, this is beautiful. But when I compare these two, I don't really see page here. So let's, oh, I'm sorry, I just shook the thing. Let's just read it because they've done a good job. Those are not weeds. Those are like clover. Oh, please. Those are dandelions. Those are not weeds. We have to banish that person who just said that. We're going to banish you from my channel. Soren. Soren. You know me better than to say that. Okay, let me come back here. Let's go to the Page of Pentacles. Through hard work and determination, your dreams and desires have become a reality. The goats are a symbol of sure-footedness and stability with their heads together. I agree with all this they're saying. I just think even what they're saying to me speaks of the page, or of the queen versus the page. This feels like fresher energy. It's the bride. It's the new energy of the page. So yeah, I don't think that they're going to convince me of this. These two should have been swapped. These two should have been swapped. I'm tempted to scan these right here and cut them out and stick them on there. And just swap them, or just put a line through them. For myself, because I don't really see this being a deck that I read with for other people. So for me, this is the Queen of Pentacles and this is the Page. And I'm perfectly happy to swap it. It's my deck. I can do what I want. You know, this version is my my deck, and so I can make it do what I want. Oh wait, Churox has something to tell us. Let's see. Look at the mask. Oh, I think she's talking about here. The new, yeah, I guess, but she just, that, for me personally, again, it might work for and somebody else, and I say more power to you, but this just looks like the Queen of Earth to me. I love her, and so that's just what I'm doing. You can do what you want. I love the king, this king here. Again, we have another animal. I forgot, you know, I instantly started working with this without doing this. So normally I do a walkthrough before I start shuffling a deck. I did not do that with this deck. So I will probably go back through. Let's see, here's the knight. That's a very good question. And since we're obviously very long in this. I think we can pause. What's another little bit? Let's look at the other kings. I know that clock is awesome. Okay, let me find the kings. I wanted to, but this is a different kind of owl. That's the thing. Like all owls are not the same. No, not all of the kings we have. He's a king. I'm trying here. I'm trying, folks. He's a king. And do we have another? Or we have one more suit. We haven't seen the last one. So it's a mix thus far. Okay. Anyways, I do quite like this. Let's see if it tells us what kind of owl it is. Doesn't tell us what kind, but that's definitely a different owl than the at least other one that I've seen for sure. Look at that one's gonna creep somebody out. Look at the little bug. Oh yeah. This is the ace of, what are we on? Like, I am so lost. This is the ace of wands. I thought we already did the wands for some reason. Did I have these mixed up? Did we do part of the wands already? I had to put them back in order. I wonder if I mixed them up. I hope not. Well, we'll see. This is the ace of wands though. So let's see through. I love this. We have inspiration, hard work, and joy. We are clearly not talking about this face. We're talking about this house sparrow. The house sparrow is known for productivity. It's always busy collecting food and nesting. Survival is a constant job. This card is a reminder that it takes a lot of work to get what you want. The threaded needle is a starting point. Look at the threaded needle right here. What's it going to do? Sew into that person's head? Oh, I love it. I gotta love it because look, so far we now have had Fae energy, human energy, animal energy, and now a little bit of creepy, not zombie energy, because that's a fully alive human being. I love it. I do like it. Two of Wands as is at a crossroads. I actually quite like the Two of Wands. We had another ones look more like a zombie than that one. And doll energy, like constructed human energy. I love the Two of Wands as a crossroads. That's not a connotation that you often see. You see a path, but I really like this has come up in a couple readings for me, and seeing the Two of Wands as a crossroads has had some powerful messages for me. I've quite enjoyed that. Kind of made me rethink that. And it works. It makes sense that it would be that way. But I've just never thought of the Two of Wands as crossroads. Here we have the Three of Wands. They have the Three of Wands as enterprise, your aspirations being put into work. What I like about this Three of Wands is that sometimes the Three of Wands, the Two of Wands is about sort of making your plans, which makes sense, right? Oops, let me pull this back. If you read Rider-Waite-Smith, the Two of Wands is about making your plans, getting your direction. The Three of Wands is often sort of pausing. And one of my favorite Three of Wands is in the Prismavisions Tarot, where she's continuing to feed the fire. And these birds are continuing to create the energy that they're doing. They're still working on it. They're not just letting them sit there and just hope for the best. They're continuing to build the energy up of the beginning of the idea and the plans that we put into motion. They're continuing to build that up, which I quite like about that. I think that works really beautiful as a going from one to the other. I love this Four of Wands, very Pip-like. I could see a whole deck. This person could make a Pip deck and it would be absolutely stunning. Of course, we have the wreath, the laurel, that idea of kind of taking a pause, getting ready for a celebration. Pretty easy to read. Then the 5. So look at that. We go from the stability of the 4. I know, Miss Molly. He would make an amazing pip deck. But look at the 4. It looks nice and calm and structured, and then bam, look at the 5. All those snakes weaving in and out, and even the jumble of the spear points are moving about. It really does show that disruptive energy from the stability of the 4. Again, remember, numbers go in a sequence for a reason, and the energy shifts, and you can really see that energy shift there. Love it. Love it. I know people are starting to think, when will this ever end? Another Fae. You can't tell me that this is not a Fae creature, either a giant bird, which would be Fae, or a little tiny Fae creature. It has big Fae, little Fae, animals, constructs, all kinds of cool awesomeness in this deck. We're almost done. We're almost done. 6 of Wands. That sense of victory. She is doing her victory lap. I like the spear in his hand. I like the little wavy thing here. It's just adorable and was awesome. I think this is an awesome 7 of Wands. I think that it could be mistaken in some ways as a 9 of Wands, but I really love it. I feel like there is that sense of standing my ground, right? Because the 7 of Wands is often seen as holding your ground, being willing to defend what's important to you, and she doesn't look like she's going to waver. Here we have the 8 of Wands, which is that sense of direction. What I do like about this is down to the river where he kills her. I agree, Miss Molly. I like the Peoply cards less as well, but I'm willing to work with them because of the rest of the deck is awesome. Again, I think that the emphasis here is on the birds. I'm not a super fan of things that are whizzing by quickly on 8s because 8s are double 4s. They're super stable energy. If you ground yourself, you can be ready to take flight when the time comes. And that's exactly what we see here. We exactly see these birds are rooted, grounded, solid magically on these thin flowers. And when the moment comes, they're ready to take flight. But right now, it's very stable. And an 8 is a very stable energy for me. So again, this really works well. Yeah, I know. We're not looking at this person. She's not dead. She's sleeping. Let's see what it says. One of the things that I will say is that the people are not the main attraction in this deck. Look to the animals. The ideas and opinions of the flock are no longer in the way. The male cardinals. Yeah, it doesn't even talk about the person on the ground. It's just talking about the cardinals. Did that blank out while I got a call? Let's see. I think it's hilarious that the book doesn't even talk about the person that's laying there. Okay, moving forward. But she's resting. She is resting, Miss Molly, and getting ready to she's going to spring to action when it's time. It's not time and she's resting now. Okay, let's keep moving. I love this 9 of Swords. He looks so powerful. He is definitely going to hold the line. Like, there's no question that he is going to stand until he needs to stand. So I love how powerful that horse looks. And of course, this image shows up a lot. Oh, is it zooming? Oh no, what is it zooming? Okay, let me see. I'm stopping. I can't see anymore. My iPad died. Okay, somebody tell me what to do. I don't know how to unzoom it. Okay, let me see. I see the comments. I'm just trying to figure out. Let me go back. Can we see now? Somebody, okay, we're pausing. I'm not seeing anything different, so I don't know how I'd fix it. Oh, no. Okay, let's see. Let me see. How do I fix it? Okay. Okay, it's just a bunch of colors. All right, let's pause here. Let me... I'm not sure what to do, to be honest, because I don't see anything different. Okay. This is not an easy thing to get off. Okay, you don't look away if you get sick. Okay, I don't know what to do. I didn't zoom it in. It was just that I got a call. So a call came in and I put the call, I ignored the call. And so nothing on my screen shows that it's zoomed. Let me see if I X. Oh no, I don't want to end the stream. Cancel. Is that doing anything? Let's see. Yeah, no, I did not zoom in. All I did was cancel a call. Okay, let's see. Sorry, folks. All right, maybe I'm gonna have to end it. That really sucks though, because we're at the very end. Okay, let me look if there's anything I can do. Don't want to mute the microphone. I don't want to do that. I know, I'm sorry, look away. I'm gonna, okay, does this do anything? I just, okay, somebody said yes. Okay, so now I know to swipe it away and come back. Okay, we're learning, folks. We're learning. I'm so sorry. I have not used my phone much to do to do videos, so we're learning. Oh, I'm sorry. I am so sorry. It's badly prepared, but you know, now we'll know the next time. Is it centered where you can see? I don't know anything because I can't trust what I see. That's what sucks, because I can't trust what I'm seeing on my screen. Okay. I've seen enough yeses. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for your patience. I'm sorry. I am so sorry, folks. We'll know. We'll now know what to do. So I think this is the one that you said you couldn't see because I was just blissfully talking away. I know everybody's like, you are a psycho. You keep us here all this time and then you make us nauseous and then you don't know what you're doing, wasting our time. I think this is where you didn't see. I think this is an extremely powerful horse is what I was saying. And now you can see that it's an extremely powerful horse. I just think it's gorgeous and I love it. This is not the Alistair walkthrough. And this is the one, I think you see this a lot. I love this image. I think you see this a lot in, maybe it's on the back of the box or something, but I see this online a lot. And I love this because it's more of a sense of responsibility. You've got the Fae that's responsible for the cat, and the cat is responsible for, and they're just kind of working together. Of course, you can take that as she's carrying the kitten, and so there is that sense of a heavy responsibility, but she can do it. Like, there's nothing about this that says she can't take care of this, which is what, for me, the 10 of Wands is about, coming into that fullness of your responsibility and being able to manage what you need to. So, or as Soren says, the kitten is about to eat the Fae. I don't think so. They're BFFs. They're BFFs. I love it. Goodbye, everybody who's needing to leave. Goodbye. I don't blame you. Here we have the page. I love her. I think she, again, I feel like the wands here, which are very much more like spears than wands, which is what you would see historically in batons. They look like you could bash somebody upside the head. There's a very warrior-esque feel to the wands in this deck, and I think that she looks like a page of wands, and I quite like her. I like her. Here we have a knight. I quite like the knight. Again, we have a very knightly knight. You definitely have both males and females gender. I would say there's definitely more females in this deck than males if I were to go through and split them up. Yeah, there we go. Here's our queen. Now, this is one that some people are like, oh, like, what is this? Is this queen, has this queen killed this raven? Like, what's going on here? Do we like what this queen is up to? So let's see what it says. you are the natural leader and firmly focused on your goals. You are radiant in the dark of the world. The arrow on your shoulder points out your direction. The crow is a symbol of mystery. You listen closely, but it is you that draws out their secrets. So they are gaining secrets from the birds, but I'm pretty sure those birds aren't probably alive. And I do agree that Mr. Hush likes redheads, and I'm not opposed to that because I like redheads. So, so again, I do think some of this artwork was pre-existing. In my mind, there's not really a question of that, but I think overall it does a pretty good job. Not my favorite of the queens, but I can live with it. I think this king is awesome. Again, I don't think it has anything to do with the head on the ground. They don't care about the people's heads. This is a natural leader standing tall with confidence. Pretty sure it's not him. I'm pretty sure it's him. People aren't even seeing the heads anymore. I love this deck so much. Okay, I don't know. Let me see something. Watch. I know, I love it. I just don't care. I'm going to try to lean back a little bit. I don't know if we're going to be able to lay any cards out, but let's at least look at the... I just want you to at least see some of the cards laid out together, and then we're going to wrap this up because clearly there is hilarity to it. I think that you have to, the Fae should be, it's liminal space, it's creepy, it's funny, it's decay, it's life, it's all of those things together, which I think often make us uncomfortable. But we've seen this in the last, few weeks, couple months, but certainly in the last month for most of the world, that, all of these things can exist in tandem. And I think that it does really good at putting all of these things in tandem. Yes, I did edge these. They are also well worn from shuffling because I do riffle shuffle. This is what I edged mine in, which I think, yeah, this is Tombow 026, which is like a matte gold. I'm sorry, I probably wasn't even in this camera. That's what I edged mine in, and if it gets worn out too much, I'll just add another coating. But that's what I did to mine. I know everybody's like, I've got to go. I'm like, I know. I expected this to be an hour. We did another live walkthrough, and it was 1 hour. Because I remember leaving and thinking, well, that's good. It was the same as if you'd watched one of my other walkthroughs. But no, 2 hours. 2 hours for the Hush Tarot. That's all right. I'm pretty sure it's not going to be anybody watching it back, just us that are here. And we enjoyed it. I figured the people who didn't enjoy it are already gone. Okay, let's just pull a couple cards. We have the page. I don't know what you can see. I'm almost giving up on what you can see and what you can't see. Plus, it looks like there's a glare. So we might just stop here. Let me see if I can go like this and bring them in. There we go. That's a little bit better. Yeah, I mean, we're just having company. I don't, I have the other live walkthrough I have a regular walkthrough that I could put up. This one I might be tempted to doing a quicker one because I do want the walkthrough to be available to people who don't want to watch a 2-hour video. But so I don't know. We'll see, but probably not because then I have to put the deck back in order. I just want you to show, I just wanted to kind of show some of these. Obviously, they need to be shuffled a little bit better. But I will say, and I will kind of leave this here. This isn't a deck that I've just done a walkthrough of. I've actually used this quite a lot for myself. I don't believe it's a deck that I would use for clients, unless I know that client that would love this particular would like this aesthetic, or if they requested it. This isn't a deck I would randomly use with people because it's not for everybody. But I have used this quite a bit for myself, and because I really did expect to find that it was just a pretty deck that wasn't really usable. And that is definitely not what I have found. That if you're willing to step into the liminal space, if you're willing to step into sort of Fae energy and the overall energy of uncomfortableness that is really, I think, authentic to Fae in between spaces, that this is a beautiful deck. It's again very similar to the John Bauer in that way that you just have to be willing to step off of the path and go where it leads. But the guidebook does a good job if you're not sure where you are. If you're kind of like, oh, I'm not entirely sure what this path took me to, I feel like the guidebook does a good job of leaning you in, at least giving you that breadcrumb. I also think that in terms of animal decks, this is one of those that we don't have enough of, in the fact that I think it leans into the more entirety of animal energy instead of just a one-sided facet to animal energy. It also has insects, it has lots of birds. I will say it has a predominance of crows and ravens, and certainly has more than one owls, but they're different kinds of owls, which to me is not the same. So I do think it's a well-rounded animal deck that also would maybe bring you a little bit deeper on an animal path versus just the sort of surface maybe, or just the supportive, uplifting energy of animals. But there's a lot of cunning, and there's a lot of strength, and there's a lot of nonchalance and comfortability with life and death that animals have, that we can lean into, I think, a little bit more for a fuller experience of animal energy. So for all of those reasons, I really appreciate it. I think I just heard that Molly generally does pretty good just enjoying my walkthroughs without purchasing. I appreciate that about her. She doesn't need to appreciate or to buy them to enjoy coming along for the ride. But I think this one, I felt like this would be a Molly deck, hands down. But anyways, I think that's enough random cards here, and a good enough summation. After 2 hours, you should probably already know what all that I just said. Okay. I know, I'm that way too, Soren. I mean, I started this channel to do walkthroughs because I love watching them. Even if I don't buy the deck, I enjoy it. I learn something from every deck, even if I don't purchase it. So I hope that others get that as well. So thank you all. Truly, truly from the bottom of my heart, this was a fun experience for me, and I hope for you as well. I just wanted to come hang out with you guys, talk about a deck that I love, and just have a few laughs and a few whoa, that's amazing art, and a few pokes at fun at poor bird watchers and things of that nature. But a lot of it was a lot of fun for me. So thank you all. I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your night or morning or whatever it is for you. And I will talk to you guys later. And now I have to again figure out how to end this. I think I have to go like this. Goodbye.